and I quote, "I'll be there in a minute. Give me a second."
Time is relative, folks. Time is relative.
Yes. So, hey, cheers to everybody in the chat. They're a division rival. I don't care how many wins they get. Screw them.
That wasn't the take I was expecting to hear.
I want to gush over watching live Chris Tanev.
I think that we completely underestimate the skill it takes to play defense.
One highlight or several highlights does not a Calder trophy make.
I'm stepping in here. I'm going to be the crotchety old man here. They need to learn patience. They need to understand the tension, and everything, and the drama.
How dare! Look at this. How is McDavid not getting a penalty?
You guys need to calm down with this, okay? You guys need to calm down with it.
I mean, should we be calm about a 2-0 start when we outscore the Oilers 12-4?
Nah.
No, the fans in the rink on Wednesday certainly were excited about that one.
It's great, and welcome to the Shifts and Pucks podcast. It is a great Monday evening, and we're after two Canucks wins to start the season, and we got lots to talk about. Yeah. How are you doing, Tyler?
Great, thank you very much. Nice to be back with both you this time, and Chris. And Chris on the road, as he often is. That's two of us in Northern BC representing tonight. So got to acknowledge that right off the bat. Chris and Prince George. I'm at home in Terrace, of course. But back from a trip to Vancouver last week, and I did have the privilege of being in the building for the home opener for the Canucks, and we were signaling touchdown after the 7th goal. It's a festive time for Canuck fans, and hopefully the team can keep it rolling here on this road trip.
And I'm happy that a consecutive score of 7-1 while a Shifts and Pucker was in the arena. Because my last game was a 7-1 win over the Flames.
Yeah.
Or I suppose it was 8-1, but still. Lopsided wins is what I'm trying to get at.
That's right. And Chris, you just got back from a trip out visiting myself here in Calgary.
Yeah, I am all over the place. I flew out to Calgary for the weekend to kind of have a late birthday celebration and to see friends that I hadn't seen since I made the move out to BC. So, enjoyed my time out there, but as Tyler mentioned, I made the drive from Kelowna up to PG today, and then I'm going even 4 hours further north tomorrow to do some work.
Well, good luck there, Chris.
Yeah, best you get that done before winter rolls in, which could be soon.
Sometimes they send me up there in the wintertime too. Yeah. All part of the job.
Yep.
All right, well, let's get into it now. As we said, two wins to start the season, something that I don't think anyone would have realistically predicted.
Yeah,
especially with a convincing 8-1 win to start the season off against the Oilers, who are supposed to be a Stanley Cup contender.
Well,
John can vouch. On Saturday, I was like, you know what? After that lopsided win, I'm ready for an L today because they're at home in front of their own fans for their own home opener. So they're going to be coming out hair on fire. And, Leon got a goal in the first minute, but after that, I'd say it was pretty evenly fought. Well, outside of maybe the shots by the end of the game. But
but that's classic Canucks, right? Just get outshot like crazy and get some goaltending. In this case, from Casey DeSmith on Saturday, Demko for most of the night on Wednesday just was suddenly gone. And when you're in the building, there's no, TV broadcast to explain things for you. I mean, I'm not like the old school.
And even in the TV broadcast, there was basically nothing.
Yeah. Other than you saying, "Hey, Tyler, what's going on?" I'm like, I don't know. He's just gone.
Because the broadcast again, he went down the tunnel.
Maybe we missed something and he tweaked something. I was like, oh no, not now.
Not game one.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, the the only thing that was truly worse for wear after that was Thatcher Demko's helmet.
Yeah, I think
So-
Stafford's going to need to hose that thing down.
That or maybe replace those foam pads for sure.
Yeah.
Well.
But yeah, he had his flu game. Like
Yes.
Michael Jordan had his flu game back in the day. And then DeSmith strong on Saturday. We had such shit goaltending for last year for most part. Like Demko was not good to start the season. He was injured. And then the Canucks had the Martin
Delia.
Colin Delia tandem for the longest time, and then with a couple starts from Arthur Seelovs, just wasn't good enough. But if the Canucks if they can get goaltending like that for this season, that will go a long fucking way to turning this team around.
Absolutely. Yeah, we talked about it the last time you and I were on together, Sean. Casey DeSmith, he's a very credible number 2 NHL level goalie, and I think we've seen that obviously to this point with the Canucks. Again, very small sample size, but yeah, isn't it a luxury to be able to just turn to him when you've got Demko in this case just not feeling well? Is it going to be like this the whole way? No, the Canucks are not on an 82-0 pace realistically, but that's been awesome. And thankfully for them on Wednesday, they were up by so much that it didn't even matter if like Demko was feeling better. They could just leave DeSmith in and apparently irritate Connor McDavid. By the way, what a disastrous press conference that was afterwards.
Granted, he probably didn't know about the flu, but still, yeah, in retrospect, it looks bad.
I know he was asked about the first power play unit when it was 6-1. But then he just kind of went into the whole thing about DeSmith on his own. And no team ever does that. This isn't a case of like football where the backup quarterback goes in when it's lopsided, or you can see the position player pitching in baseball. I mean, that never happens in hockey. So there had to have been a reason for DeSmith to be in the game other than the lead. And
also his complaints were contradictory. Keep your complaints straight, because you can't say, well, it's stupid that they brought in the backup goalie with 10 minutes to go, aka taking it easy on them. But then he's also like, it's 6-1 and they still are putting their power play 1 unit out there on the power play. Well, do you want us to actually give you full effort, or do you want us to take it easy?
And there's been tons of fans that have made this point on Twitter /X, whatever we're calling it now, that it's kind of hypocritical for them to be complaining about that type of thing. I mean, the Oilers are in my mind quite famous for padding the stats against weaker opponents over the last number of years, and to achieve statistical milestones, in particular for Connor McDavid himself. So for that complaint to come out after the first game, I thought was really weak.
And then when you look at the penalties, like that that the Oilers were taking, including the one that led to the 7-1 goal on the power play.
Yeah,
it was a shitty penalty. It was Leon being fucking pissy.
Yeah,
and
Jim Matheson, thank you.
taking a very dirty slash on Ian Cole.
Yeah,
like it's just like, yeah, if you're gonna take those type of penalties, expect the other team to put out their top players and say, fuck you. Yeah. We're going to go out and score. Like, come on.
Yeah. I mean, this whole idea of taking it easy on the opponent in pro sports and whining over that. I mean, there's pros and cons to either side, but they are all in the business of winning and getting results. And the players themselves are in the business of producing and putting up numbers for contract purposes. So all of the discussion around that kind of thing is just, I don't know. It's just it just seems like a waste of oxygen most of the time.
And to be honest, I also think that McDavid was definitely making another Michael Jordan reference in this podcast. We're just taking things personally just to drive him, right? And I think that was something that Jordan has, especially how as time goes on, we're finding more and more of that. What Michael Jordan did, he would take something, stretch the truth to drive him, there's nothing like inherently too wrong about that.
No.
But yeah, it's just it was when the news is trickling out about Demko puking in his mask, and then you hear McDavid cry about him leaving the ice. You're like, oh well. I mean, whatever floats your boat, Connor. At least you're showing some sort of semblance of a personality.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. It was just a very strange, and didn't. I mean, if I were an Oilers fan, I wouldn't feel very reassured from that. Maybe the fans there were rallying around that, but I mean, that would have been misguided.
Yeah,
I'll tell you, the people I was in a group of 3 watching the game with a couple of friends, and to either side of us were Oilers fans, and they were just quiet all night. I think there was disbelief on all ends of it. There was their shock at how flat they were, but it didn't seem like entirely that surprising to them. And then on the Canucks end of it, it's like, I can't believe it's 8-1. Like, this doesn't seem right. Like, what's going to happen on Saturday? There's lots of that discussion around us. A lot of life in the building, though. Stirring pregame ceremony. Awesome to be there to see. Everybody knows that Quinn Hughes was going to be the captain, and he was already playing preseason games with the C on his jersey. But they did the whole symbolic passing of it there with some of the past captains in attendance: Kurtenbach, Linden, Henrik Sedin, and Stan Smeel. They did have messages as well from Marcus Naslund and Roberto Luongo on the video board, the impressive new video board, by the way, during one of the commercial breaks, so that they were recognized as well. And the fans serenading the goalies. I'm not really a big thing of the serenading the goalies thing, because if something happens at the other end, right? Like the hockey gods, if you believe in the hockey gods, I don't know about serenading the goalie, but as it turned out, both Oilers goalies allowing 4 goals and both getting a hard time from the Rogers Arena faithful. It was quite the night, and after these last couple of years of getting off to terrible starts, it's you can't ask for much more than 8-1, and then following it up on the road against the same team, and it like wow, like you said, Sean, at the beginning, I don't think anybody had that in their predictions.
When were you comfortable with that lead? Because I believe the Canucks started off with a 3-0 leader to start the season last year against the Oilers.
Yeah, and you did bring that up, and remember we had a good discussion about that. I think there was a there was a really bad missed high stick or something that occurred in that game, and then the Oilers took advantage of it. There was a turning point in that game, but in this one, they changed goalies after 4-0, and then the Oilers, I believe, got the next goal. It was that sharp angle power play shot from Draisaitl. So I had a little bit of concern there, but once the Canucks got the next goal, I think it was pretty well sealed at 5-1.
Yeah, 5-1 for me was like okay, I think we're gonna win this. In 6 months, like, okay, we got this in the bag. But yeah, 5-1 for me was that more so sort of feeling.
Yeah, exactly.
And then in that game, we got the that 4-goal performance from Brock Besser.
Oh wow!
And you can just see you can honestly see the difference in just how he feels. It's so evident in just there's no longer this like weight of the world on his shoulders anymore, like he did last year.
Yeah, you can see that in his body language. You can see that in his post-game press conference, how relaxed he was. And it was like the old Besser, where it just that shot was just working for him. It was just going in with ease. Like the goalie wasn't even much of a deal for him, as long as he could just get it on target with a quick release and that shot that we all know and love. It's boy, was that a sight for sore eyes seeing that.
And it was kind of cool because I want to say like Canucks Army, like 2 days before that game, was put out like a highlight package of Besser in his rookie season, him scoring a bunch of goals. And then to basically see that again 2 nights later was, it was awesome to see.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just, you hope the best for him. He's someone that's gone through a lot over the past couple of years, and just would love to see him just like become a I think he's already a fan favorite, but become a favorite amongst like the hyper analytical again, because he's just because of his contract, essentially because of his contract, he's become a bit of a you need to trade him type player, and I would love to see him right that wrong and become part of the core again, because I think he's got the ability to do that, and that Miller, Besser, DeSmith line is like, I know there's still that question: is DeSmith the right
long-term fit?
The right fit for that line? But it's working right now, and the best part is you get to hear people like myself try and say Phil DeSmith.
Okay, so you're just saying it fast now. So before
if I say it fast enough, you can't hear how bad I mispronounce it.
Yeah.
I maybe won't challenge you on air, but I want you to say it 10 times fast at some point.
I'll practice and I'll do it on the podcast next week.
All right.
Jeez, guys.
But yeah, and then not like as good as Besser was, he still wasn't the best Canuck in these 2 games. And Petey got the second star of the week in the NHL in those 2 games with 6 points, with a goal and 5 assists.
Yeah.
And he's in a contract year, but he had such a great year last year. I think we're starting to see the true killer Petey coming out now.
Well, and if based on the first couple games here, if you're seeing perhaps Petey and Besser and maybe Quinn Hughes now, and he's got the C, and they're all growing up a little bit more, the whole coming into their own thing. I mean, if that's actually going to happen this year, boy, it's going to be a fun year to be watching the Canucks.
Not only that, but if PD's off to this hot of a start already, maybe the Canucks want to get that contract signed sooner than later. Otherwise, it'll keep on going up, up, up.
Oh, I think it's going to be big no matter what, honestly.
For sure.
It's already big, and it's also like just figuring, like, I think they're both figuring out what the future looks like.
Mm-hmm.
I think there was a little bit of like the Canucks going, do we want to sign him long term? And I think it's not necessarily they want to sign him long term. It's what is the direction of this team? Because if they're still middling, I really hope not, but if they're still middling the way they have over the past couple seasons, like maybe it is time to maybe they are thinking about tearing it down and doing a proper full rebuild. But really, I don't even want to fucking think about that at this point.
No rewords. We've gone through too many years of that.
Yeah, right. So let's hope that the good times, the good vibes continue, and that they do get them locked up long term quickly. Because I think if the way they're playing under Tocchet, and the shot totals in game 2, were very lopsided for the Oilers, but they were a lot of them were from the outside. They did a good job containing the Oilers and keeping them to the outside and keeping them from having too many high-end scoring chances. So I think it's if they can, it looks like 2 games in, it looks like they've got the buy-in that they need to play on the defensive side, and it looks like they've got chemistry. We know they've got chemistry with Kuzmenko and Petey. We know they've got chemistry with the Miller, Besser, and Phil DeSmith line. And then if they can find, it looks like they might have something with that fourth line too. And you add Bluger in there at some point as well. I think they're going to find that's going to happen. Hell, I was like almost a little too calm about the penalty kill as well, even against the Oilers. Like it was that penalty kill. It was almost in the first game was almost like, okay, we've got that under our belt. Let's go score some fucking goals.
Yeah,
like it was like it's no longer this oh crap they took a penalty, here comes a goal type mentality, and that's And that's such a low bar, but fuck, it's refreshing.
And the Oilers still got quite a few power play goals over the 2 games, but percentage-wise for the Canucks was not nearly the embarrassing level it had been the past couple of years.
Well,
Like,
again, when you're facing the Oilers too, who have a historically really good power play, you're going to give them up. It doesn't matter how good your penalty kill is,
especially when Leon can score from those impossible angles.
Yeah, they've got a 72.7% penalty kill after those 2 games. Like, I swear, if this was last year, it'd be in the 30s. They'd be the Washington Capitals. Like, it's the Oilers penalty kill is 55%. Because the Canucks power play was just as good. If not, well, actually, it was better than the Oilers power play in those 2 games. So they get those going and you get the goaltending. I mean, still, I don't want to put the trolley in front of the horse and get too excited here, but
well, this sort of leads into the next thing. Like, after 2 games now, I think more of the neutral party discussion about where the Canucks are at, and by neutral party I mean, the observers that are not Canucks or Oilers fans are willing to maybe start giving the Canucks a little bit more credit for their start. After the first game, it was really that it seemed like, just getting back to the hotel, watching the post-game coverage on Sportsnet and TSN, it all seemed to be about, how crappy the Oilers were and because they're supposedly a Stanley Cup contender. I mean, Sean, you and I talked about it. Why are we afraid of Edmonton? I mean, they're still guilty of what I call the Edmontoning thing, where there's just a lot of standing around watching the other team, and there's just not this commitment to a full team effort, and then we fall behind, and already in the first game there's McDavid and Draisaitl thrown together on the same line, and then when they were shut down, that's it. They're screwed basically. But the Canucks still have a lot of road trip left to go here, and against some pretty strong teams. There's Florida and Tampa in there. They've got Nashville as well. So none of those teams are, in my opinion, slouches. So and then Philadelphia coming up right away here too. And is it ever easy going into Philly?
No, and especially with this weird time as well.
Yeah. Did you want to just address that now, or?
Yeah. So yeah, it's the Canucks and Flyers game was originally scheduled for your standard 7:00 Eastern start, so 4 p.m. in the Pacific, but they moved it up an hour because the Phillies are in the NLCS in the baseball playoffs. Yeah. So it's now a 3:00 Pacific start tomorrow on a Tuesday in October. It's just weird, but I can understand why they're trying to do that.
Yeah,
but that's
control purposes in downtown Philly, or where I don't know the proximity of the baseball stadium and the hockey arena, but I suppose it's some kind of logistical issue like that.
I think so. Well, I know for sure that the 2 or 3 of the Philly stadiums are right beside each other. I do not know if the Veterans Stadium, is that where they're still playing? Or did they get a new one?
You're pulling an Al Michaels now. It's called Citizens Bank Park. Yes, the old one was the Veterans Stadium.
Yes.
No, Citizens Bank Park. Oh boy.
Yeah, I don't know. I can barely keep up with like all the I can't keep up with all these stadiums.
I'm just reading this now. Apparently, there's a Mexico-Germany international friendly happening at Lincoln Financial Field, where the Eagles also play that same night. So, yeah, and it's all
they got Citizens Bank Park, Lincoln Financial Field, and the Wells Fargo Center, all within like a block. So it definitely is some crowd control there.
Yeah, and this is Philadelphia we're talking about too. So when you've got the Phillies going into the playoffs, it's gonna
Why are you scared of Phillies' brotherly love?
Have you watched the Phillies play in the postseason lately?
So yeah, it's so that as much as like
fans in BC,
yeah, right. As much as that, like the Philadelphia Flyers are like they'd be the low team on the totem pole on this road trip.
Yes.
With that start,
but they're still
they're still a Torts team, and they're on. Yeah, it's not going to be an easy game tomorrow.
No.
So, but yeah, and then
the Torts will be showing them video footage of our first two games and be like, we need to take them down a peg.
Yeah. Just make sure Torts does not. Make sure any shortcuts that Torts knows in the Wells Fargo Center, from his arena, his locker room to the Canucks locker room. They've got security guards, please.
There's no corridors.
Or at least locked doors, yeah.
Well, Rogers Arena now, I guess that corridor has been replaced by a VIP premium seating option now. So, do you guys happen to catch that, by the way, on the telecast on Wednesday? How they're the people that have access to that can actually watch the Canucks players going to and from the dressing room?
Oh, cool.
I mean, there's not like couches, but I didn't see anyone in them.
Yeah, when they just keep an eye out for home games for that tunnel shot. Not with people stacking up there with fighting each other, but so from the Canucks bench going to their dressing room, and it's very it's a very fancy corridor, but they've got like the fancy rope there now, and then the VIPs can.
Yeah, basically like a lounge with a couple of couches, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, the Oilers, I think, have this now. I know they used to have that at Rexall Place as well, their previous rink, where the players would go past the VIP section there, and it wasn't always positive. That's the only catch with that. But
when going good, it's great. But when you're on a losing streak, I imagine that's probably not a fun place to walk past.
Yeah. This isn't on the agenda. I just wanted to bring this up though. Both teams on Wednesday played short a skater. Wasn't the case on Saturday, but
it was the first time it actually had ever happened in NHL history where both teams were actually short due to cap reasons.
On the first night?
I mean, that's where it is. There was 4 or 5 teams that played short, including the Canucks and the Oilers. The Sens played short as well, but like you're able to call up a player with no cap hit. As on an emergency basis after you've played a man short for a game. So the Canucks called up Jack
Marty Walsh and the radar of the radar of Marty Walsh and the NHLPA here. I mean, that's like, how can that be, right? Although I know lots of people have gone on about this and say, hey, the cap's the cap, but the first night and you're playing short, that's devaluing the product, isn't it?
I mean, hopefully the fact that this is the last season of the flat cap before substantial jumps, hopefully this is basically something of the past at this point. But I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, like
throw that one
it's one of those things where like why isn't there some sort of mechanism within the CBA that allows them to like just have like name like 2 or 3 players at the beginning of the season that in an emergency can be called up no cap hit just to play, and they have to be making it within a certain amount. Like you within league minimum and say like 150 more than that, and then
like it's just when you're talking about a season opener, it's a nationally televised game, and both teams are not able to put out a full roster. It just doesn't seem right. There's got to be a way that's better than that.
Yeah, like Sean was mentioning, maybe something like where it's like your lowest salaried NHL contract player is allowed to come up without consequence or something along those lines.
Yeah. So, and then also was brought up again, and we talked about this last week. But Elliot Friedman talked about it on Saturday. Some more Connor Garland trade speculation, and more so on what the Canucks are looking for him. It sounds like they've been trying to trade him. Well, they've been trying to trade him for basically since 2023 started, I think.
And there hasn't really been much denial from his camp about that. And then as Elliot was reporting, it seems like his representation is trying to help, look for a potential.
Well, Garland got a new agent now. And then they're trying to find a spot that works. Canucks are ideally looking for a defenseman in return, as well as to clear about $2 million in cap space.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds like Columbus, Nashville, and Winnipeg, amongst others, are interested if they can find that right deal. So it's going to be. I don't expect this trade to happen in the next 2-3 weeks. I expect it to be a little bit longer. I expect the Canucks want to have McCabe back and know that he's fully healthy. They want to have Soucy back and know that he's fully healthy before they even think about that.
It sounds to be a game time decision tomorrow, by the way.
Yeah, Soucy is a game time decision tomorrow, and as per Talkit as well, there is a good chance that McCabe plays on this road trip. But it's also just who knows? Maybe McCabe coming in, Garland goes down and plays with Bolivier and Pius Suter on the third line, and that clicks. Then maybe they don't even think about that, and that trade request gets rescinded because the good vibes continue. But I just don't see it being an imminent move that's going to happen. A, you rarely see trades this early in the NHL season, and B, with the current injury situation with the Canucks, I don't see them necessarily having an urgency to make this happen.
Although I would add that his new agent is actually like the new power agent in the NHL. Like, just to name his biggest client, Connor McDavid.
Yes, after Connor McDavid's old agent moved to become Connor McDavid's boss in Edmonton, as was it?
This is not strange.
Yeah. And then I don't think it actually is the one. Like, you got Ken Holland still there and all that, but he's been brought in as an analytics assistant GM role. Can't remember exactly what it is.
No, actually, I think he's CEO, but there's layers of management between the CEO and then obviously
CEO of hockey operations. Yeah.
Okay.
But he's up in the food chain though.
Yeah, he is. Yeah. And so and then this I've heard Jeff Merrick say this agent's name a billion times since this has happened. And Friedman as well, but I can't remember it. But yeah, he's supposed to. They want to find him a new spot, which is, fair. It hasn't worked out here in Vancouver to the extent that everyone was hoping, and I don't think he's necessarily a talk it type guy. Mm-hmm. So if the Canucks are able to get defensemen for him, and then maybe clear some cap space, or just get some flexibility on the cap just a little bit more, that'll go a long way. And I think the Canucks are quite high on players like Niels Lamont, Jack Studnicka, let alone I think they're going to take a longer approach with Podkolzin, but Höglander's looked good as well. They've got options on the wing. So, and I think they've got options on the wing that fit the role that they want to have in that specific in a third liner, and I don't think necessarily that Garland fits that.
Also, at his price tag at just shy of $5 million is a little pricey for a third line winger as well.
Exactly right. They've got,
and in their context with their cap situation, that's an area they can free up some space. And that was pretty well their stated goal going into the offseason, is about freeing up cap space.
And also, I looked it up. It's Judd Moldaver.
Judd Moldaver. I was like, I knew it was M and almost like Mulder, but I couldn't quite figure it out.
There you go. I will say though, is knowing that information about some trade speculation, and he just tucks in that pass from Petey there to open the scoring on Wednesday. And I was like, yeah, of course, of course.
That play was just
sick.
Oh, it was sexy. Like on it, they had what Draisaitl and McDavid on the pregame, on the pregame, like doing saucer passes, and they kept adding when it was with the segment with Colby Armstrong, and they kept adding like pads to make the barrier higher, and then Petey's like, I'll do it in the game. Just lofts that soft pass in, and then I know Garland doesn't get enough credit for how he received that and how silky smooth it was to the move to the backhand and just tuck it in. Because that just everyone was just so focused on how good that pass was from Petey.
Oh, yeah, it was.
But hey, if we're trying to move both Besser and or Garland, they both had monster game ones.
So Petey made that flip from the left wing boards right around the blue line. We were sitting in that corner there, the same corner. So just seeing that whole play unfold, just a really decisive, crisp tape-to-tape pass from Garland to start the give and go, and then fancy version of it, and then he just goes hard to the net. Petey flips it in there. I mean, that looked like they had worked on that a few times in practice, even though they probably haven't.
Oh, it was so. I just remember watching that, and poor Heidi, got a quick reminder on how loud I can get when when there's hockey that I care about on.
It was one of those 2 TV nights in the Holmes Smith Stobert household there.
Yes, it was. There was two games on at once.
And guess which one had the volume?
Can't deny that one. Yeah.
Gotta go to bat for producer Heidi here.
But is there anything else on the Canucks that we haven't talked about that you want to get into?
I mean, I already kind of addressed the in-arena experience. It's always a little bit different. I think there's always like 3 levels of Canucks game experience. There's a Saturday night game, and then there's a Saturday night against the Canadian team, and then any night against the Canadian team. Saturdays are obviously a little bit more juiced up, but then there's just your run-of-the-mill weeknight game against a non-Canadian or non-Original Six opponent. This being a home opener and against the Canadian team, it had a lot more energy to the experience, but Canuck fans weren't sitting on their hands waiting for something to happen. Like it was there. Like, keep that going, fans. Let's go here. Let's make it a tough place to play in again. Let's get that that intimidating environment. I mean, the Oilers fans are getting run out of the building by the end of it, and that's the way it should be.
Yeah, I mean, as one of the few people and the first guy from our podcast that have actually seen the new scoreboard, like, I know photos make it look ginormous compared to the old one, but like, how impressive is it in person?
Doesn't do it justice. I mean, that thing is, like, if you thought the old one was pretty big, no. this thing's massive. It's a little weird with the shape. It's got that, they're not flat sided.
Yeah, it's like a concave, but towards the fans, like almost like phones with a rounded screen sort of effect.
Yeah, while the play was going on, down the sides there would be the shift length for all the players that are on. So one team on one side, one on the other, and then the underneath panels were showing the same information, just laid out differently. But when there are other points, like during promotions or other things, not during the play, the only thing I found a little bit weird about it sitting in the corner is that you can actually kind of see part of the next side. So we were primarily seeing like the side of the screen facing the nets as opposed to the penalty box or the players' benches, but you can still see around to the other side a little bit. So I found that a bit of an adjustment, but other than that, it's big, it's crystal clear, it's very impressive, and there are panels underneath now, which is kind of standard for all these arenas now for the people that are sitting lower in the seating.
I mean, loyal fan of the show, Dylan, was talking in my Facebook group chat for my fantasy league that apparently he noticed when he went to a preseason game that they don't have like power play and the penalized player up on this board.
That was there. So I don't know.
Maybe they were tweaking that during the preseason then.
Yeah. No, it's there. You kind of have to look for it. Everything's kind of laid out a little differently than it used to be. So it takes some getting used to if you go to see a game for the first time with a new setup.
Fair enough. All right.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, it's nice to tomorrow. Yeah. Well, and then there's some NHL news here that we got to get into. We got Abbotsford native Devon Toews signing a 7-year deal with the Colorado Avalanche. I know there was always the hope that he would come home, but I've always felt they were gonna find a way to make that work. To me, it looks like the Avs went longer than they wanted to go with him, because I think they've got that 30-year-old sort of the age issue there was definitely playing a part in it. And I think Devon Toews ended up signing for a little bit less, just to get a couple extra years. So I think it's one of those deals that, well, both sides had to give up something to get a fair deal.
Yeah, it's a good deal when both sides are upset at how much they had to give up.
Yeah, General Manager Chris McFarland had mentioned it. They wanted to have a deal done here at the start of the season. So once they've reached the 11th hour, something has to give. Looks like, I guess, as Sean's suggesting, a little more term than the Avalanche would have liked, but that's negotiating for you. I mean, good for Devon Toews. He's been a very key piece of that Colorado blue line, and he's locked up for the next 7 years.
Yeah, and he doesn't have as many NHL miles on him, so that kind of helps with the fact that he is 29 years old. But he's been him and Cale Makar. Is there a better pairing in the NHL?
Probably not currently.
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah. So you have you look at if you're the Avs, you're Christmas Park and the Avs, you look at that and go, okay, we've won one cup. How do we win more? And even if we have to overpay in term for Devon Toews, how do we do it without him? It's a lot fucking harder, right?
50 points last season and played almost 26 minutes a game during the Avs Stanley Cup run a couple of springs ago. And I mentioned the next 7 years. It's a 7-year extension, so 8 including this season, just to clarify. So yeah. He'll be in a Colorado uniform here for a while.
Yeah, he wasn't a first round pick, so it's great to see that type of success. Mm-hmm. And then another big deal that came down this past week was Owen Power with the Buffalo Sabres. Them continuing to try and lock up their core long term before they hit their stride. So he's got one more year left on his ELC, and then they signed him to a 7-year deal at $8.35 million. So they'll have, starting next season, they will have Rasmus Dahlin at $11 million and Owen Power at $8.35 million locked up long term, along with Matthias Samuelsson at just a shade over 4.25.
All right, Buffalo, make the playoffs now. It's time. It's time. You're spending like a playoff team. Make it in there. I know this is coming from a Canuck watcher, but
I mean, there's a lot of long-term deals that they have locked up. So
yeah, they've got Tage Thompson locked up long-term. Yeah, Tage Thompson and Dylan Cousins locked up long-term, over $7 million per. And they've got Jeff Skinner signed for another 4 years, including this year, at $9 million. So they've got it. Yeah, they need to take that next step. Otherwise, they'll be similar to in similar spot to where Ottawa is, where they have signed again another team that signed a lot of their young players up to a long-term deals and haven't made that step into the playoffs. But then we also have the Winnipeg Jets surprising everyone and getting Mark Scheifele and Connor Hellebuyck signed to identical deals, getting them tied down to Winnipeg. And
that's
when everyone
is relief for Jets fans, hey, like the way it went last year, and I would think there was some concern about particularly Hellebuyck maybe not being back, but.
Well, it's for me. It's interesting. I think I was expecting I heard more rumblings about Hellebuck, like them making progress with Hellebuck, because they just the goalie market for trade, like a return in a trade, is just not there, especially after this year when like the NHL, well, I guess sports in general is always more of a like just a copycat sort of like leagues and ideas because you have with this past year when you have the Vegas Golden Knights winning the Stanley Cup with Aiden Hill as their starter. There's a lot of teams that may not want to be spending the assets and the cap on a true number one goalie. So, and I think separating themselves, like the Jets were a lot like the Flames and how it ended. There's a lot of anger and hurt feelings, and unlike the Flames, they kept their coach. They did make one big trade. They made a bigger trade than the Flames did in trading Dubois and getting back Iafallo and Velarde, and Rasmus Kupari. So they got quantity back for a quality player. But there was still questions on whether or not there was more coming down the pipeline for the Jets in terms of changes and trades. And I thought that, yeah, with them wanting to turn this roster over, I thought that maybe they would be looking at a Mark Scheifele trade. You have teams looking for number one centers, including the Boston Bruins, who lost Bergeron and Krejci and now have a bunch of third liners trying to fill that role. So I thought that maybe they'd find a way, but no, they decide to re-sign them to 8.5 times 7 deals. Is, I think for Hellebuck it makes a lot of sense. For Scheifele, we'll see, but it's definitely rocks the landscape of what's available for teams going forwards.
Yeah, and props to Cheveldayoff, because after that first round exit last season, I was convinced that was going to be a fairly significant turnover in Winnipeg, especially considering the stigma of like no one wants to stay in Winnipeg sort of thing. So yeah, the fact that they were able to hold on to as many guys as they did, yeah, impressive. So yeah, props to Cheveldayoff.
Yeah, when I was referring to Jets fans feeling some relief over that, that's I mean, that's always in the back of their minds. I'm sure that fear, like, as soon as there's some value for these guys, they're gone.
Well, that and when you look at how Cheveldayoff has acquired players, for the most part, he's acquired players with term on the deal, so then they can actually sell them on the like you're here, make the best of it, and then hope that they fall like they're willing to stay long term when their deal is up. They made it. Last year they made a trade for Nino Niederreiter, who had term left. And that's probably why they're actually interested in one of the big reasons why they're interested in Connor Garland is he's got 3 years left after this year on his contract, and there's more like they were able, which would be good for them because would a less chance of him wanting to of them losing him, especially for nothing.
Yeah.
Right. So that's why I think that's why we're all a little surprised and all that, but it's also how Cheveldayoff has acquired players. Iafallo's got a year left after this year. Velarde's got a year left after this year. As is Rasmus Kupari. Like, it's just the players that they've acquired in these big name deals have been players with term.
Quick tangent question here.
Yeah.
Kevin Cheveldayoff, is he now the longest tenured general manager now in the league? He's got to be.
If he's not, he's in the top 2 or 3.
I know Cooper is the longest tenured coach, but as far as GM,
with David Boyle now stepping aside from that role in Nashville, I would assume Kevin Cheveldayoff's the guy, and I guess that's kind of, sort of raises an eyebrow for me too. I mean, I guess it's a bit of a statement on his security with ownership there too, that, he's got he's still got full authority to make big commitments like that.
He is the second most tenured GM in the league.
Who's the? Come on, I should know who the other one is. Then.
same division.
Is it the Blues manager?
Yes, Doug Armstrong with the St. Louis Blues.
Yes. Okay, there we go.
He was hired in 2010, July 1st, 2010, and Cheveldayoff was hired June 8th, 2011.
There you go.
So
coinciding with their move to Winnipeg from Atlanta.
Yeah.
Right on.
All right, and then I know, Tyler, off air, you were moaning about this request. But do you have any bold predictions for this upcoming season?
Okay, I'm just going totally off the cuff. The Ottawa Senators will make it. There, I said it. Some way, somehow.
Thank you for joining me on the Ottawa Senators Dark Horse fandom.
I hate predictions. I hate being one upped more. So I will applaud you guys just to appease you guys, and that's it.
Well, my bold prediction was that Tampa and Boston will miss the playoffs, both of them. And for that to happen, I'm on that. I've got that would make the Ottawa in there as well.
That's all.
And funny enough, mine was also tied into that in the sense that I said all three of those Eastern teams that have been pushing the playoff bubble, I said all three of them are making it this year. So
this
took it to the extreme.
Yeah, you would need one of Tampa and Boston realistically to fall off there,
and probably even Florida or one of those more fringe teams. Yeah.
But yeah, all right. And then Chris.
Yes.
Do you actually have a one last question this week?
Yes, I'm actually prepared this time. Although it's a bit cheeky, but with this start, and we've already said the Canucks are not going 82-0, but with this strong start so far, is this a flash in the pan? Or is this new identity with Rick Tocchet and playing with the tenacity that Tocchet played with, is this sustainable? Is this long-term, or is this a flash in the pan?
I'm going to say yes to that. What really stood out to me on Wednesday, and I didn't get to see as much of the game on Saturday, but what stood out is how direct they're playing. There's a lot less screwing around with the puck. We talked last year, we must have said puck management on this show how many times?
I don't want to hear that term anymore.
Right? That wasn't an issue in these first two games. Not a glaring issue. I mean, it's never going to be perfect, but that part's really seemed to change. And Sam Lafferty, just as an example of that directness, he takes it to the net, gets an assist on a goal coming down, after just really outworking the Oilers defenseman on Wednesday, and then he gets his own goal on Saturday with a very similar play. And how much of that have we seen from the Canucks in recent years? I would say not much of that. That work ethic, and the talk was hard on certain guys in public, but during the training camp and through the preseason, and looks like they've responded as a team.
I mean, and after they hired Tocchet, there was that whole media campaign of structure, discipline, and all that jazz. So they're living up to it.
Yeah. I think when you look at the high end skill that this team has, the goaltending this team should have. I don't think there's. It's too early for me to get too excited, but I don't see a reason why this can't be sustainable if the buy-in continues.
Yeah. Well, and success breeds more success, and having started this way against a strong team, I mean, if they're not buying in, what would it take for them to be buying in at this point?
Right, and if they can, the buy-in continues. I think we're seeing another level from Petey. We're seeing his he's in his killer era. If we're gonna go into the whole Taylor Swift thing right now, this is Petey's killer era. You're seeing he's all business. He was never really not all business, but I feel like it's even more so now. And then you're just seeing a maturity with Quinn Hughes now, which is allowing JT Miller just to be a bit of more of a loose cannon, which is fits his game better. But
That's
he's
when
also
he's at his best is when he gets to just be that.
Like,
Without
was it Draisaitl said it, like, sometimes it's good to get smacked. And then
JT took it literally.
and then JT took that literally, just ran him over, that nice hit. I just
That and just trying to one up PD with his hit on CC.
Yeah. I think we are there's definitely more hope now after watching them play against the Oilers. If that buy-in continues and with the high-end skill that they have to score the goals, I'll say yes, it's sustainable. They definitely need to get healthier though. Susie on the back end will help with his size, physicality, and he's a player who's willing to eat shots. We saw that from Ian Cole, and that was something that I think that the blue line lacked last year. They lacked the players who were willing to put their bodies on the line and eat shots.
And that's why they were willing to actually spend all that money to buy out OEL, because they knew that he wasn't going to buy into that style of system.
He wasn't willing to do that. So you brought in Ian Cole, who's willing to do that. You've got Carson Soucy, who's willing to do that. Tyler Myers, for all his other faults, is willing to do that. Then even up front, you've got Teddy Bluger. They went out and got Sam Lafferty. Jackson Meek is willing to do that. Like, they have the players who are willing to do that now. And if that buy-in continues and they continue to do that throughout the year, they've got the top end skill that can put them over the edge.
Yep.
And yeah, hopefully with this current road trip, like we already talked about the fact that like Philly's not going to be a cakewalk, Nashville isn't either, but I'm hoping that with those two teams being relatively lower in the standings, generally speaking, and then both of the two stronger teams being currently decimated by some fairly significant injuries, the whole like pressure on having a good start to the season that they've struggled with the past couple of seasons, like I feel like with this road trip and the way it's trending, like if we could potentially have like a 4-2 road trip, that would be outstanding.
Yeah, I mean, when I was on a couple weeks ago, we were just hoping for 500 through this, but yeah, now it's like, it almost feels like it would be disappointing if it wasn't a 4-2 road trip.
Even if they go 500, like the remaining 4 games, like they just split it.
Yeah,
that means they come home after 6 games to start the season with 4-2, and then maybe you get an OT point in there with one of those losses.
And that's always
how
part
could
of
you
it
be
too,
wrong?
right? Like, you're managing the losses too. If you can still get it to the overtime, you've managed the standings somewhat in that regard. Gary's World. I'm stealing an overdrive reference there. Gary's World. Oops.
Well, yeah. Well, so. Well, yeah. So, is there anything else? We need one last question. Is there anything we missed?
Not that I can think of.
No.
All right. Well, how can we follow? How can we follow you?
You can find me on X, formerly known as Twitter.com, at tnoble, TNOBLE.
You can find me at most social media sites at Schneitz.
You can.
I mean, it's on the screen.
For our audio listeners,
for anyone listening to the podcast form, SCHNEIDZ.
There you go.
You can follow Devin. Wait, hold on. Did he put it back? Looks like he did. Damn it!
What?
Well, according to X, it's now Gordhauser9 again. Maybe he got in trouble.
Somebody actually would have reported him.
I don't know.
It wasn't us.
I just went to his profile as well. Yeah, it's back to the original handle. He's Gordhouse09 again.
At Gordhouse09 on X.
Oh, Devin, I don't know about that one. Like you step into it like that, you got to stick to your guns, bud. Next time we're on together, we'll have to have a word about
that. You can follow Kevin at KEVOLE on the social medias. You can follow me at BeardyCount03 on the social medias. You can follow us at Shifts and Pucks on X, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. And I think we'll probably have another Flames podcast later in the week, and we'll be back next week, early Monday or Tuesday, to talk about the Canucks again. So if we don't see you on later on this week, we'll see you next week. And thanks for tuning in. Bye for now.